Live stream. Greetings, welcome back. Becoming Undone is a podcast for those that dare bravely, risk mightily, and grow relentlessly. I'm your host, Toby Brooks, and each week we bring you a high achiever who's managed to go from falling apart to falling into place. And this week's guest, we were talking a little bit before the show, Brandon McCoy. By his own acknowledgement, he hasn't had a lot of failure, but man, he has grown so much. You've probably seen him in social media circles. Brandon, thanks for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me, man.
So this one's been a long time coming. I've been hassling you for a better part of 2 months now. I saw your, I think you have a silver old body style Chevy video that really blew up. There's been a number of others, but you're a graphic artist based out of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. So I usually just start at the beginning. What did you want to be growing up and why?
I get that question a lot. I'll be honest. I don't know. I've been doing this for so long. I feel like once I reached an age to where I got to thinking about maybe what I wanted to do when I was older, it's always been sort of automotive related a little bit. I still haven't grown up. I'll just say that. I mean, I'm still just a big kid in an old man's body. But for as long as I can remember, I've always gravitated towards the art and paint jobs on cars. I remember being in like middle school and going to the local library and looking at Mini Truck Magazine, Lowrider Magazine. I remember looking at all the paint jobs, just kind of, gravitating towards that. And I was always able to look at those paint jobs and kind of break them down like, oh, it looks like they covered this area, painted here. Then maybe, I just didn't know how to paint. I didn't physically know how to paint. So I feel like maybe that is when I was like, well, maybe after I'm done with school, I'll learn how to paint cars and, how to properly, spray with paint guns and this and that. Maybe the artwork stuff will kind of follow.
Yeah.
But I've always kind of been an artist. I was always that kid in class that doodled and got in trouble for drawing in class. That was always me in class type kid. So
yeah, well, it's obviously served you well. And I've had several artists, athletes, high performers from all different walks of life. And in the arts in particular, it's not a clear-cut path. Yeah, you could pursue it in college. There are some ways that you could train to be an artist, but let's face it, Da Vinci didn't go to college. I mean, the best artists are typically self-taught. They're influenced by a lot of different people, and they usually had to figure out a path because it's kind of hard to pay the bills when it's first starting out. So talk me through a little bit about how artwork became profession for you and maybe how you navigated that difficult transition from a job that pays the bills to really pursuing your passion.
So I'll be completely honest. I never started doing art with the intentions of being an artist or I want to do this for a living one day. It was never, ever like that. My art was always, it was like my escape. Like I'd come home from my job and I would, sit down, throw the headphones in, practice pinstriping, practice airbrushing. It was always like a therapeutic, an escape. And I never approached it as I'm going to do this for a living one day. It wasn't really like that. Now, when I did go to college, I played football in college and I needed a major. So I was like, well, I'm good at drawing. I'm art, so I'll do an art major. So I did actually do all the art stuff in college. Now, I'll be completely honest. I didn't learn a thing because it doesn't translate over to what I'm doing. I remember in college, we were drawing like, the typical naked models and stuff, doing all that. I was like the worst kid in the class because that's not my thing. So that part really didn't translate over. Now, I do feel like a lot of us artists we're wired a little different than most people. My mind and my thought process is a lot different, I feel like, than I guess you're not artistic person maybe. So I've always liked to kind of carve my own path, and I've always been that way. I approach that way with, I'm like that with everything. So I always had, a regular job. I did go to college, tech school to learn how to paint cars. I did do that. And, once I learned how to paint cars, I'd work at body shops and do restoration stuff, just, your basic bodywork type stuff. And I always did the artwork on the side. And long story short, it just got to the point to where I was making more money on the side than I was going to my job. It got to the point to where like, man, I could go work this 40-hour work week, or I could stay home in one day and make 40 hours worth of work in a day doing my art. So once I reached that point, I told my boss, I worked at this restoration shop in Dewey, Oklahoma. I told my boss, I was like, man, this is my 6 months notice. I'm not going to give you 2 weeks. I'm not going to do that to you. 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months from now, if it's still like this, I'm out. And he's like, I respect that, And 6 months later, I was even more busy. my day job was even more of a pain to go to. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to branch out. I'm going to try to be an artist, and I'm going to try to do this. And that has been, this will be my 10th year as a
Yeah.
full-time artist. So
That's great. And
yeah.
it's great to be able to turn passion into something that can help you pay the bills. When we were chatting before the show and maybe even a little bit yesterday, we talked through a little bit about how you started off in the show circuit and maybe you went to a couple and we're doing some live stuff, and now that's become really central to what you do. And you also mentioned that social media has really helped you blow up. Gooch Customs, you're everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the regular sources. Talk me through a little bit about how social media has contributed to your growth as an artist and as, dare I say, an influencer.
Social media is a weird thing. I was on the tail end, or I was kind of at the beginning of it. I will say this: if social media wasn't the way it is now, I truly don't feel like I would be where I'm at, because we're so connected now. It's so easy to someone in Australia to see your work, and so easy for someone across the United States to see your work and maybe ship you something to paint. When that wasn't around, it was all word of mouth, and you'd have to rely on, local car shows, this and that. And I'll be completely honest. I mean, I get local work, but I don't get a lot of it. Most of mine is traveling. People send me stuff, commission me stuff, or I'll go to car shows all over the country, set up, pinstripe, sell my art, market. That is where I've kind of built my following. Now, I will say that it didn't happen overnight. I went out there and I hit the road, and I feel like I definitely earned it, but definitely didn't start like that. I'm a mini trucker at heart. I've always been into mini trucks. I'm from a super small town up in Kansas. Mini trucks are not a thing there. It was me, and that was it. And I remember looking at all the mini truck magazines, and I would see where all the local or all the upcoming shows were. And the closest show to me was in like Springfield, Missouri, which was about 3 hours. So I saved up like all my money. I got a hotel room for like the first time ever by myself, and me and some buddies went to this little mini truck show, and I took my truck, and that is where it all kind of started. I went there. It's kind of hard to explain unless you've been in the mini truck scene, but the mini truck scene's it's big, but it's also tight knit. Like if a new dude shows up with like a truck no one's seen, it stands out. Everybody's like, who's Chevy is that? Who's that guy? Because everybody's so used to seeing everybody. Well, I was that guy. I showed up with my truck, and it was like I went to the paint and body school, and in that school they let you work on your own vehicle. So I candy painted some stuff, did some interior, small tweed interior. Well, I show up to this car show, and I'm the new guy. Well, immediately everybody's like, who are you? Who are you? And asking me about my truck. And I met some guys. It's so weird thinking back at it, because I was putting these people like, these are dudes I'd seen in magazines. They're all my friends now. But like at the time, these were like, oh my God, that's so-and-so. And now they're just mini truck guys, that I've just seen in magazines, I got to hanging out with some of those guys and talking to them. And one of them put on a car show, this show called SOL. And they had it in Joplin, Missouri. And he invited me to set up as a pinstriper because he found out I pinstriped. And I couldn't wrap my mind around how you really think people are going to like pay me, the stranger, to stripe their car. And he's like, I really do. So again, I go out and I set up at this show, don't have any money. Like I'm a broke college kid. I promise you, the canopy that I used to set up, I didn't even have enough money for that. So like I bought it with the intentions of using it and taking it back and getting my money back at Walmart, because I wasn't even prepared. So I set up at the show, and I was charging like $10 to do a hood because I didn't know what to charge. And I made like $300. Doesn't sound like much, but at $10 a hood, I was busy, and I just couldn't believe that people, wanted it done. And, so I did that show, and I was like, man, that was pretty cool. It got me some beer money for the weekend. I paid for my trip, and then just how it works, you go there and there might be a guy that's at the show, that's a show promoter for another show. He sees me. Hey man, I seen you at SOL, you when you set up my show. And that first year I did like 2 or 3 shows. And then the following year I did those same shows, and I think I maybe added one. And then I just kept doing that over the years and years. And now I do like 15 to 20 shows a year all over the country, not just local, all over the country. Yeah. It's just word of mouth. And then, getting on social media, posting pictures. And then, like I said, the mini truck scene's a pretty tight knit group. You kind of become, you need some pinstriping. Oh, Gooch, he's got you. He's the guy. Kind of how it works,
Right, right. Well, behind me, I'll see if I can do that. That award is from the 1996 Style and Concepts Sport Truck Nationals. So I
Nice.
was an OBS guy back in the day, and
I
that
haven't
was
heard
like,
Style and Concepts in a long time.
I know, right? Like AIM Industries and what was the one, Traders, all those magazine companies. But Style and Concepts had a show in Owensboro, Kentucky, and I had actually left early. I was like, man, screw that. I had my subs going. I actually blew the back window seal out, and the rain was coming. I'm like, I'm going home. And a buddy of mine, he's like, hey, I got your award. Like I saw him the next day. I'm like, what award? And it's like they give a top 25. It's like one of the highlights of my life, and I wasn't even there for it, man. But you're
Nice,
right,
nice.
like definitely a tightly knit community. Well, when I look at your work, I know that every artist has a different process, and every artist has different influences. And I've heard you say it multiple times, like when you are at your best, the customer gives you some guidelines, but then just kind of lets you go. When you're staring at a blank canvas, talk me through kind of how it goes from just scuffed clear coat to finished product in your mind.
Okay. That's a tough one. It's a hard one to explain that. I teach a lot of classes, custom paint classes. I'm a firm believer. I could teach you how to pinstripe. You give me a full day, I could teach you how to pinstripe. I cannot teach you what goes up in my mind. I really can't. I kind of can walk you through, but that's like going to an athlete and be like, hey man, how are you athletic?
Right.
You just kind of
Yeah.
are, you know. The be- it depends on the day. Every day is different. A lot of energy drinks, a lot of Tool on the radio. I don't know. I've never had a problem with that. Obviously, every project's a little bit different. I'm really good with communicating with my customers. I get a feel for the style they're going for because I can do all different kinds of styles. The first process doesn't start with the vehicle, it starts with the person. I'll get a good judgment off of a person. Like you, for example, you're talking about the style and concepts, 17-inch billets, billet tweed interior, stuff like that. I know what era you come from. I know like what the paint jobs look like then. I know what you probably think's cool and what you don't. So right out the gate, I'm noticing little things like that. And I log that, and as that's a driving force for when I start my paint jobs. Um but I'll be honest, I it all comes so naturally, and I don't want to say it's never going to happen, and I know a lot of artists get like artist block. I've never really dealt with that because I don't know, man. I when I start taping stuff, it just kind of comes to me. And most of my customers are super cool and they're like, give me creative freedom. I'm not afraid to try different stuff in the moment. I'm very, very anti cookie cutter type
Yeah.
stuff. There's a lot of cookie cutter paint jobs out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't ever want to be one of those guys. I want every one of my paint jobs to be better than the last, or maybe like try something a little funky that's risky. It's going to pay off. It might not pay off. I feel like having that mentality going into it, kind of having some balls, kind of helps me a little bit maybe.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it pays off. Every now and then, you know, I might go back and be like, I really don't like that spot. I'm going to go back and fix that. But it's a hard one to explain. It just kind of comes to me.
Yeah.
I'm real big into music. The music's a big thing. Anytime you see me working, like on a paint job, I always have some headphones in. If I don't have headphones in, I got a Bluetooth blasting some, you know, some music, and you know, you get in a good rhythm and got your jams going. You just start, you know, start to have a good time. You know, you get the head bobbing a
100%.
little bit, and that's when the magic happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we were talking a little bit before the show. Again, we're talking with graphic artist Brandon McCoy, Gooch Customs. You said you didn't really have like a rock bottom moment, but there was an occurrence in your progression that really kind of set you on the path that you're on today. And you were working, and as the side job became bigger, you eventually got kind of redirected.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. We won't call it a rock bottom moment, but that transition and how it pointed you in the direction you're in currently, even today.
Well, now that we've talked about it and I've thought a little bit more, I can think of a few more. So I'm just going to kind of start from like we'll start kind of from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Again, from a super small town, Kansas, 1,000 people. No one knows anything about paint. No one knows about anything about airbrush. That's not my clientele. I'm just from that town. So I ended up randomly moving to Florida. Moved down to Florida. Just didn't know a single person, not anybody. Didn't have a job. I had painted this like a 35 Chevy Coupe and I got paid like $5,000 for it. So I had like $5,000 in my pocket. Most money I've ever had in my life. Couldn't believe it. I'm moving to Florida. See you guys. So I literally, like, that week I moved. Go down to Florida. I get this job at this restoration shop down there off Craigslist. And I kind of went them over with my art. And they hire me on for like I'm going to be like pretty much the bottom of the barrel shop guy. But you're going to be the artist in the shop. And he a clause in his hiring me. He's like, you got to bring in custom paint jobs. So I was like, okay, whatever. Well, I'd been there for a couple months, and I don't know anybody at all down there. And so I'm not just going to be able to bring all these custom paint jobs in overnight, and he started to get a little aggravated, maybe a little bit with me, because I wasn't, bringing stuff in, which I was like, dude, I don't know anybody. It takes time. So long story short, I end up getting fired. He ends up firing me. And so then that really lit a fire under me. Like, I was like, I'm going to show this guy, you don't do that. And so I ended up staying down there for a couple more months. I could not find a job, could not find work. So I ended up having to move back home. And I remember moving back home, and I remember there were some of my friends, and I heard people, small town, people talk. I hear the chatter. Oh, I knew he wasn't going to last very long down there, blah, 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 and you're turning the fire on me. So I always had that in the back of my head. Fast forward to going to the car shows, stuff starting to take off a little bit for me. I got another job. The last job I had before I ended up going full time, I worked for that guy for like 4 or 5 years. Stuff started popping for me a little bit, became self-employed. I got an apartment, and, I couldn't, once I went full time, I was like, man, money's tight. Like, this is scary. I'm an artist, So there's no way I could afford a shop. So I was like, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to rent a garage at my apartment. And I'm just going to spray out of that apartment garage. I'm just going to be doing airbrushing, small stuff. I'm not ever going to be doing big stuff, Yeah. Well, you know how that goes. We start doing that. And the next thing you know, man, I really need to clear this motorcycle tank. I'm just going to clear it, but I'm going to wait till late tonight to clear it.
Right.
So I'll be honest. I started running a freaking shop out of my apartment garage, single bay garage, like a detached garage, just kind of off by itself. And I'll be honest. The apartment people, they knew what I was doing. They just really didn't care. They just kind of turned a blind eye. Well, I worked out of this garage for like 5 years. I was painting all kinds of bikes. I painted my full car in there, like piece by piece. That apartment garage. In 5 years, it went 5 years before I ever got a complaint. And I was out there one night, and it was like 1 or 2 in the morning, super late. And I had my door cracked open. I seen this guy walk by, and he was kind of like in there looking, And next day, I got a complaint. My manager called me, and she's like, hey, we had a guy complaining. He's seen you in there painting last night, which in my defense, I wasn't clear coating. I was just airbrushing, very minimal overspray. And he was worried that I was going to get overspray on his truck, which his truck was like 50 yards away. Anybody that knows anything about airbrushing knows there's no way that's ever going to translate over. But anyway,
right.
Not the point. I shouldn't have been painting in there. So she's like, we can't let you paint in there anymore. You're going to have to figure something out. So I was like, all right, well, now, I got my 5 years worth. It's time to, take the next step. Let's get a shop, make it legit. You have me a designated work area at my shop. And, to be completely honest, I should have done that a long time ago, because the second I got my shop, it just, I don't know, stuff took off. More area, more room. I could bring vehicles in my shop. Just a game changer, a total game changer. Was it scary? Absolutely. More money overhead a month, but I've had this shop now for, I think, 5 years. This is my 5th year here. So I'm glad old boy turned me in, because I would probably still spray in that little apartment garage.
Well, I think certainly there are things that we wouldn't have chosen, but a lot of times they're the redirection that we need. And I think that definitely counts as that. The title and the theme of the show is becoming undone, going from falling apart and things not being as we would choose to being unfinished, having a goal or a big dream that we're working toward. As an artist, have you ever had, maybe think of an example of something that didn't go according to plan? I know I found myself in the middle of a project. You're like, man, I'm worse off than when I got into this shop, but something good still comes of it. Was there a project or a job that you had that didn't go as according to plan, but it still ended up being really meaningful, important, and influential in you and your journey as an artist?
Uh, Honestly, man, nothing really that sticks out. I mean, I've had a few nightmare customers that kind of maybe opened my eyes a little bit that people aren't genuine. People are out to get you, to use you a little bit. I've dealt with that. You know, I had a customer one time that was like that, and I learned my lesson from that. I feel like to this day, you're never going to convince me I was in the wrong because I wasn't. But at the when it was all resolved, he kind of ended up apologizing, and I found some stuff out, you know, that kind of made sense. But I guess from that moment on, I kind of opened my eyes, like maybe not be as trusting. I feel I'm pretty good with reading people, but maybe have my guard up a little bit more because there are people out there that'll try to use you or, you know, get one up on you type of a thing. An example, the shop owner that fired me down in Florida, you know, once I started kind of popping on social media a little bit, he ended up reaching back out and he tried to, like, you know, man, I'll bring you back on all this and that because he had seen he wasn't willing to invest the time with me then, but once I did all the legwork, he was ready to go back in. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
right.
maybe that learning that people aren't as genuine because the way I was raised, like I said, small town, um, you know, my grandpa, my dad, they raised me. You know, I know the tattoos and all that stuff doesn't look like small country boy, but they raised me as a man. I feel like a handshake is all you ever need, and once you move from that small town to the big city, the handshake doesn't necessarily mean anything to some of these people when it means everything to me. So maybe, you know, learning that, understanding that. But as far as getting into a car or something, man, I'm not, nothing leaves my shop unless I'm proud of it. Nothing leaves my booth unless I'm proud of it, period. There's no other way around it. So
Hmm.
when I have something out there running around, I'm proud of it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I don't want to ever have any like regrets about it or any second guessing. Once it's out there, it's out there. So
Yeah.
I feel
I
like if you
love how
have
you
that,
said that.
I
Yeah.
feel like if you have that mindset, it'll pay off in the long run type of a
Right.
thing.
I love how you say that. You say you're proud of it. You didn't say perfect. A lot of times in this show, the theme of perfectionism comes up and how for a high achiever, that can drive you to do great things, but it can also eat you alive. Talk to me a little bit about perfectionism. And then, you know, in the car show world, whether it's Riddler or take your pick of whatever the high profile car show is, it's a world about results, and being perfect for a graphic artist can be a lonely space sometimes. So where do you draw the line between done and undone? How do you know when something is something you're proud of?
So as an artist, art, it's impossible for art to be perfect. If it's perfect, it's not art. It's
Mm.
as simple as that. Not, you know, I get it all the time. My pinstriping. Oh man, you perfectly matched it on each side. No, I did not. I may have came close. It's never, ever, ever, ever perfect. Um, and also perfect that's in the eye of the beholder. Like something that I think is perfect is absolutely spot on. The next guy might absolutely hate it. That looks terrible. That's not, you know, but to me, it's perfect. Something I'm proud of. Like I said, I won't paint anything unless I'm proud of it. If I get a customer that the whole customer's always right, that's a bunch of bullshit. That don't work with me. Anybody that knows me that's got stuff painted is you bring me your ideas, tread lightly because I'm going to give you my opinion. And if I don't think it looks good, I'm just going to tell you. I'm just going to straight up tell you, like, I'm not going to be a jerk, but I'm going to be honest with you. And you can either respect it and take it, my professional advice, or you can go to the next guy. They'll cater to your every needs. And then you go to a car show and everybody's talking shit about how ugly it is. You know what I mean? I would
Yeah.
rather break your heart right up front. Like, hey man, that ain't the way we need to go. That's just my personal opinion. And if me and you can't see eye to eye on it, I'm not your artist. Because with what I deal with, I consider myself, I am absolutely obsessed, like obsessed with custom paint. So there's nothing out there that if you've thought of it, I've probably thought of it. If you've
Hmm.
seen it on the internet, I've probably seen it. You know, if you've seen a paint job, I've probably already broken it down in my head 50 times before you've shared it to me on Facebook. That's how
Yeah.
obsessed I am with it. So I consider myself a professional, you know, in the paint scene. And with that mindset, I kind of expect my customers to respect that a little bit and be like, I want your opinion. What do you think? If I don't get that, then we're just not going to really see eye to eye throughout the project, and it's going to be a pain, and I'm not going to be interested because I'm not going to have my heart in it. I'm going to be painting something I'm not proud of. I want to have that feeling of when I leave the shop at night and go home, I can't sleep at night because I'm so excited about waking up to work on your project.
Yeah.
And if I don't have that feeling, it shows in the artwork. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the perfect thing, that's a tough one because I've never had I've never even came close to having a perfect paint job. Maybe, you know, I think it's cool, but there's always something wrong with them. I'm just really, really good at tricking people's eyes and getting you away from the mistakes. That's what makes a good artist, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Well, you're famous on your social media for saying if paint will stick to it, you'll put a custom paint job on it. You've painted anything from KitchenAid mixers to toilets. I know you're famous for mini truck inspired toilets. Tell me how a pinstriper goes from doing hoods at a car show to being asked to do things like that are a little off the wall.
So, I mean, believe it or not, a lot of people, they see me as a pinstriper first and a custom painter second. It's actually the exact opposite of that. I painted first, did graphics first. The graphics needed a pinstriped outline. So I didn't know anybody that pinstriped. I couldn't afford anybody that pinstriped. So guess what? I'm going to learn how to pinstripe. So I actually did the graphic stuff first, the paint jobs first, and the pinstriping came later because I was trying to be all in-house. The pinstriping, though, that's where people get it confused. They see me set up at car shows pinstriping because I can do that at a car show. I can't paint your car at a car show. I can't airbrush your car at a car show, but I can pinstripe it at a car show. So a lot of these people, for the longest time, they thought I was just a pinstriper. When this whole time, I'll be like slinging paint jobs, like, oh, I can paint that, no problem. Oh, you can do that? Yeah, dude, I can paint that easily. So when I started getting my social media, when I started getting my paint jobs out there, people started to understand, oh, he does both. Because a lot of guys, they'll do one or the other. They'll either pinstripe, can't paint, or they'll paint, can't pinstripe. I wanted to be all a one-stop shop. So the translation it was just always there. I feel like I've always been like 50-50. Half the time I'm pinstriping, half the time I'm painting. The toilets was kind of a random thing. I'll be completely honest. I can't even take full credit for the first one I did because my buddy kind of came up with the idea. I had thought about painting a toilet before, but how all those came about, I went out to SEMA. I don't know, about 5 years ago. It was my first time to go to SEMA. Super excited. I get out to SEMA. SEMA's the baddest of the bad. All the painters are going to be there. Anybody's going to be at SEMA. So I was excited about seeing some of these painter stuff in person. And so I get there, and the first thing that I noticed is there were some of the baddest painters in the world there. Beautiful paint jobs. But nothing stood out to me because they all painted the same thing. A skateboard, a motorcycle, a helmet, a mini hood. Same things. So it was very easy to walk by some stuff that was a banging paint job, but it's just like, some skateboard, cool, whatever. Look at the next one. So I told myself, I was like, all right, next year when I come out here, I need to paint something that's like going to get someone's attention from like 50 feet away. And then that's going to bring them in. Then they're going to look at the paint job. So then I was like, well, what are we going to paint? Well, my buddy Eric, he has a shop kind of really close to my shop. He stops by here all the time. We're really good friends. Me and him were at the shop one day and we were talking about it. He's like, dude, you need to do a toilet. You need to paint you a toilet. He called it a glitter shitter. And he's like, I'm going to go buy one. He's like, I'm going to buy one. He's like, I've been wanting to kind of learn this stuff too. He's like, well, I'll go buy one and I want you to walk me through how to paint one. So I was like, all right, cool. I was like, I'll be honest. I've been wanting to do one for a while. I've done some toilet seats, but never a full toilet. So he goes and gets his toilet, brings it up to the shop, and we figured out how to prep it and everything. And, he leaves to go do his whatever. And I'm stuck here all day staring at this toilet. So I get excited. And I was like, well, I'm going to start taping this thing. So I start taping it, throwing these crazy colors on it. And because I know what Eric likes. He likes bright, loud. He's just like I am. So I start blowing some of these colors on it. And I'm like, dude, this thing is sick. So I call him like, hey, you ain't getting your toilet back. I was like, I'm keeping this. I was like, I'll buy you another one. I go, but I'm keeping this one. I was like, I'm taking this to SEMA. And he's like, that's fine. That's fine. So anyway, I ended up doing it. I ended up painting this crazy toilet for myself, realistically. So there was no limitations. I go crazy on this thing. I'm not trying to please anybody except myself. So I went wild on this toilet. Man, I take that thing out to SEMA, and it got so much attention out there. I knew it was getting attention because I posted a video of it, and it went viral. And I knew it was getting real attention whenever people were walking up and being like, "Oh my God, we found it! We found it!" Like they were literally like, "SEMA is the best. All these crazy cars. They're looking for a toilet." So I knew I was onto something. So I did that, and then it went viral. And then I had people obviously how much to paint one, and I ended up selling it at SEMA, and then the commissions kind of started coming in for toilets, and I'm working on. I just finished up number 14. And I have 4 in line right now to do.
Wow.
4 more, yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. Such
Yeah,
a cool
they're cool because I take that back. I have another one that's out there. I can't talk about it because I can't talk about it yet. But stay tuned for that one. It's gonna be really cool. It's gonna get some real. Yeah, it's for a TV show. I'll just say that. It's gonna be really cool. Awesome. I can't talk about it though, but that's gonna be cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, probably one of the more high profile, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but definitely in my interaction with your work and then looking at what you do, that the Indy Killer OBS truck is top shelf. And it just so happened like 3 or 4 of those builds, there's even a dually that came out all kind of around the same time. But the one you were involved in was, in my opinion, the wildest, the coolest. And you mentioned in our prep leading up that there's really a cool story behind that truck. So talk me through a little bit about how you got involved in that project and what it meant to you.
So that truck was built by a shop down in Meridian, Mississippi, Twin States, hot rod shop. Anybody knows anything about Twin States, those guys build some super nice stuff. And they are, they have an eye. They have a perfect eye for like 90s nostalgia sport trucks. Like they're the guys. And I didn't really know them. The owners, Justin and Eli, they're brothers. I'd seen them at some car shows, we go to a lot of the same car shows. I'd seen them, but I never really didn't really hang out with them or anything. And a customer took them the truck, and they were wanting to build it, and they wanted to have the ultimate Indy pace truck is what they were going for. Because you see a lot of guys, they'll build the Indy trucks, and it's the same. It's the same ones over and over and over again. They throw a decal kit on it. They're all cool, whatever. We've seen them before. They were wanting to do a little different. They want to do a little bit of a twist. So they get a hold of me because they see me paint mini truck stuff, and they're like, "Hey, we want you to come down." They're like, "We're going to have this truck ready. We want to put your version of what the Indy Killer, like if you would have worked for like Chevy in 1993 in the graphic design department, what paint job you would have put on it." And I was like, "Are you sure about that?" And they're like, "Yes." They're like, "Full artistic freedom. We like your stuff. We want your spin on it because we're tired of looking at the same old trucks, So I was like, "Dude, I don't know why." It blows my mind that no one's thought about this idea before because it's a cool idea. So I was like, "Absolutely, let's do this." Well, so it started out, they were building an Indy truck, the Indy pace truck. Build an Indy truck. We get down there and we're like, they're working on it. And first off, I show up. This thing is like, without the paint job, this truck's still ridiculous. It's immaculate. Like the metal work they did on this thing, the attention to detail is just next level. If you're an OBS guy, you already know if you've seen the Indy Killer, it's just absolutely next level. Well, at the time, they were kind of like, there's another Indy truck getting built at the same time, and they were kind of going to debut them around the same time. They're kind of competing shops a little bit, like some friendly fire type thing. And the other shop ended up debuting their truck first at LST, and it gave a chance for the Twin State guys to get eyes on it, which in my opinion was kind of a mistake because you get eyes on it, you're like, all right, now we see what we got to work with. We're going to go above and beyond. Well, anyway, they comes to find out the truck, the Indy Killer, it used to be the maintenance truck at the dirt track in Talladega Motor Speedway, like the maintenance truck. So they're all thinking, they're like, everybody does the Indy truck. Talladega's never had a truck. There's never a Talladega pace truck or whatever. Their plan was to debut this truck at Battle in Bama, which was at Talladega Motor Speedway. Mm-hmm. Dude, this isn't an Indy truck. This is a Talladega truck.
Yeah.
So that's why they call that truck the Indy Killer.
Yeah.
because they're trying to kind of go there immediately. This is how against me earlier. I was talking about against the grain. That's how I am, and that's what they were going for, against the grain type of the stuff. Because immediately they're going to be making a lot of the purists mad because we're switching the graphics up, because we're not staying true to the graphics. We're tossing those up. So what was cool about that truck is it was the dirt track truck, maintenance truck, gets completely rebuilt and then gets debuted. It's like a coming home type of a thing. Gets debuted at Battle in Bama at Talladega with this brand new makeover, of the Talladega truck. That's why if you look originally on the doors, we had painted it has the instead of the little Indy car, it's got an OBS kind of leaned back with some, the same flames and stuff coming off it. It said Talladega truck underneath it. But it ended up, it was a little much. We ended up getting rid of that and just having the OBS on there with all the graphics underneath it and stuff. But that truck is so cool. Like, it is, the attention to detail in that thing, it is just unreal. And those guys down there at Twin States, we were so like, we were finishing each other's sentences. That's how on board we were with each other. You know what I mean? It was a phenomenal experience. And I built a good relationship with those guys, and we got some stuff in the works coming up. I'm going to be going back down there here pretty soon to do another one. And Eli, I'm calling you out. Eli's exact words were, "We're going to top the Indy Killer." So
yeah, those are fighting
and
words.
it's Eli's personal truck too. So I believe he'll do it.
Yeah. Well, an incredible build, no doubt. And the thing I love about it is, like you said, it definitely has that 90s flair, and that's your wheelhouse. I mean, if anybody follows you on social, they know your fits are all classic Nike Air sneakers and starter jackets. And I mean, that was that era, and that color scheme is right in your wheelhouse as well. But it's like
Got
that.
the Agassiz on right now.
It's like that Cal Concepts, or
yeah, I'm actually going to Cal Concepts this weekend. I'm going
all those wild.
I'm actually going to Cal Concepts this weekend to paint a truck.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to California.
That's
on
awesome.
Saturday. I'm leaving out to go to Cal Concepts for the truck.
Super cool.
Yeah, 90s, man. That's my childhood. That's my that's my childhood.
Yeah. Again, we're joined by Brandon McCoy from Gooch Customs, artist and kind of social media extraordinaire. Think a little bit about how you've grown over the years. If you could go back to the version of yourself that first picked up a pinstripe or an airbrush, or, first started down this path, what words of wisdom would you give him?
Patience. Be very patient. I probably would have told myself not to doubt myself as much, maybe. Actually, I don't know if I would have done that or not, because everything to this point's worked out pretty good. So maybe don't doubt yourself as much. I was pretty hard on myself at first, but I feel like you kind of need to be that way a little bit. You need to be your biggest critic. And maybe at first, back to the whole being from such a small town, a certain type of a person lives in a small town like that. No offense, my whole family lives there. But they're wired a little different. They're kind of small-minded, real small. They don't need much type of a thing. So when you're getting advice from people like that, like, man, no one's going to pay for that stuff. Your pinstriping's too expensive. You kind of start to believe that a little bit, and you kind of let that get to your head. So when you get out in the real world and, maybe go to a big car show or a place where there's some real money, you're kind of trigger shy about your pricing, or you're trigger shy about, should I be charging this much? And then you realize that those people back home just really don't know what they're looking at. They're just not cultured in the art scene. So maybe don't be as hard on yourself, and don't listen to your friends and family, but also don't listen to your friends and family sometimes, because that can be a little mixture of both. Like, I always tell people, like my students when I teach classes, I always tell them, don't listen to the compliments your grandma gives you. Because you're always going to be little Brandon in your grandma's eyes. He can't do no wrong. You know what I mean? She's going to, you're the sweetest thing ever. Your work is amazing. That needs to go in one ear and out the other. Thank you, Granny. I appreciate it. But take advice and criticism from people that know and are educated on what they're looking at.
Right.
If a guy that's been pinstriping for 20 years walks up and be like, dude, that design you just did, that is nice. Take that to heart, log that, and find out why that guy maybe thinks that's nice. Pick his brain a little bit. Mm-hmm. But it's easy for your friends and family to gas you up a little bit,
Yeah, right. I grew up in small town, rural Southern Illinois, and the voices I heard back then were, you get yourself a good job, and good jobs were at the prison because they had good benefits and steady pay, or teaching jobs. Those were like acceptable professions. Anything other than that, like, you're crazy. Why would you pursue a career where you don't get a regular paycheck? My daughter was a vocal performance major, and she said her first day in class, she sat down and the professor said, "Congratulations, you've all won the argument." And they're like, "What do you mean?" "Well, you've all probably had to convince or argue with your parents to pursue a career as an artist. So congratulations on winning and pursuing your passion." So that
Right.
life of a starving artist, yeah, you're an overnight sensation that's 10, 15 years in the making now.
Yeah, it's same thing in my hometown. It's oil field or just like ranch, farm. Pretty much you don't strap work boots on in the morning, come home filthy, you're not doing nothing. That's
Yeah.
one of that kind of a mindset. Definitely. Now, I will say this, my family was very supportive. They've always been very supportive of me. But it is funny. I can distinctly remember my grandma. She's like 84 now, but this is probably, I don't know, probably 5 years ago. And I've been pinstriping for, this will be my 21 years, you know.
Wow.
I've been going to car shows for probably uh, 13 years now or something. And about 5 years ago, my grandma was like, my nickname is Do Baby. She calls me Do Baby. She's like, Do Baby? She's like, do you ever make any money going to these car shows? And I'm like, Granny, like, bless you're so clueless. You don't even know you no, I've just been out here just not being able to pay my bills for the past, 15 years. Nope, I don't make any money at all. And she just can't, she couldn't wrap her mind around it. And then my dad brought her to a car show one time. It wasn't even anything crazy. It was like some local car show. She just could not believe that people were walking up and they knew my name. Just baffled her. Just could not wrap her mind that these strangers knew who I was. And I was just like, yeah, I put the time in. I've been out here, hitting the
Yeah.
road. I've worked out there, this and that. Well, now she's got Facebook, so she sees it all the time on Facebook now. So she's all about the Facebook. She's figured out
Yeah.
Facebook, so she sees all these people, commenting and liking my stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Every
Do
time I see
baby's
her, she
kind of a
goes,
big deal, Granny. Do baby is kind of a big deal. That's funny. Well, just two left. The first one I ask of all my guests: if we were to watch a montage of your life, what music would you pick to play in the background and why?
"Oh man, you asked me this the other day, and I've been thinking about it. Probably, I mean, there's a couple songs that come to mind. One of the songs is a song by Social Distortion, "Winners and Losers." It's not one of my favorite songs, but I feel like I can relate to that song because it's kind of a song about, you have choices throughout your life. You're going to be a winner, you're going to be a loser, you keep going down that path type of a thing. But to be completely honest, a song that I listen to, I'd say 5 times a day, and no matter how bad of a mood I'm in, it will always like make me feel good. "Soul to Squeeze" by Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I don't know why, but the second that song comes on, I'm just like, all right, today's about to be a good day. And I feel
Yeah.
like my life up to this point has been I've been very fortunate. I'm a very happy, funny guy. So I feel like that'd be a good background because it's just a good upbeat song. I really like that
For
song.
sure. Yeah.
And
That's
anybody
a
that
good one.
watches any of my other videos on my social media, besides my painting type stuff, knows how kind of goofy I am. You
Yeah.
can't take me serious with anything. So I've always been the kind of the class clown guy. So that song to me kind of fits me pretty good.
Yeah. Well, the theme of the show is becoming undone. So we go from falling apart to falling into place, having something left undone. What for Brandon McCoy is left to do? What's undone?
Man, that's a tough one too. I'm never full. There's always something left. I'm never fully satisfied. But with that being said, I'm a very very simplistic person. I'm not one of these guys that I don't need the big house. I don't need, the brand new car. The little things in life make me the happiest. So I'm very 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 easy to please. And I've always said as long as I can wake up and do whatever I want to do and not have to answer to anybody and not have a Monday, I'm doing something right. So as
Mm.
long as I can continue to do that, I'm not ever going to get selfish. I'm not ever going to get greedy. Obviously, there's some accomplishments I would like to achieve. I want 20 years from now, I want people to look back and be like, man, he was he was an amazing painter. He was even a more amazing person.
Mm.
And I really want to teach as many up and comers as I can. Whether in the future it translates into more teaching classes or, you know, giving advice to certain, paint things or whatever. I'm all about that. Maybe it'll gravitate towards that. But my thing is, and I'm with this with everybody. I want like I know what it's like to be young and hungry and like dream about kind of doing what I'm doing. I want everybody to have that feeling. So like
Mm.
I want everybody to win. And if I can help a
Yeah.
little bit with helping the next cat come up and maybe push him to take the next step, or maybe that's why if you ever see me at a car show and I see anybody interested in watching me, I always bring them in like, hey, this is why I'm doing this. If you're are you at all interested in pinstriping, come back here and give it a try. Anybody that knows me
Yeah.
knows I'm all about that. And
Yeah.
I really like to do that, and I really like to teach. And I don't know, as long as I can, like I said, as long as I can wake up happy and not have a real job, I'm okay. I'm okay with it.
Absolutely. I will give you your flowers. One of the things that I love about your social is you'll share the tricks of the trade. You're not trying to hoard that knowledge to yourself. A lot of people, there's no shortage of ego in the auto scene and the custom car scene. And so I love the humility, and I love the fact that you're always willing to help that person that has a question. I mean, you answered 1,000 emails and messages from me, so I
Sure.
really do appreciate that.
Which is it's weird. It's weird to me think about. I get that all the time. Someone will be like, a lot of the times I'll get a message. Um, it might be a Facebook message, and they'll always start out. I know you're probably never going to respond to this or even see this, and that's just like I don't. It's just baffling to me that like there are truly people out there that won't respond or won't look. I just don't understand that because it
Yeah,
doesn't. So I'll respond back. I'm like, oh my god, you actually. I'm like, dude, I'm just a paint guy, man. What's up? What's up? What you got? What you painting on today?
right, right.
And I don't know. It's weird. I don't know if it's just because I was raised a certain way or I don't know. It's
Yeah.
strange to me that I get that. You know what I
Well,
mean?
don't change, man.
I'll
That's
never.
awesome.
My mom raised me better than that.
Yeah, for sure. How can people follow your work? Drop those socials there. I'll be sure to drop them in the show notes and descriptions. But where can people follow the work that you're doing?
So I post a lot of my stuff on TikTok, Instagram. My Instagram is Gooch_Customs. I think my TikTok's just Gooch Customs, and I'm not. I'll be completely honest. I don't even know what my Facebook is. It's something on there. I have a business page on Facebook, but I never ever post on there. My personal page is just Brandon McCoy. But usually, I'm real active on TikTok and Instagram, and I do a lot of try to do a lot of tutorial stuff, a lot of paint stuff, and then every now and then I'll throw a funny video up. Anybody that follows me knows I'll do some storytelling every now and then. So we keep it real around here. I'll just say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a real treat. I really do appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on the show.
I appreciate you having me on, man. This has been fun.
Awesome. Last little bit, I always stitch this in at the end. If you could just introduce yourself, state your name, and say, "And I am undone."
Brandon McCoy, Gooch Customs. I'm undone.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. I
Sure.
will stop the recording right there. That was good. So